All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And we'd like to do pledge allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Dawn is remote, so I'm running the meeting. And we will be taking roll call for the votes tonight. Let's see. The first one are so we're accepting the agenda, no changes. The first one are announcements, Libby?
Thank you. This meeting is being video and audio recorded. The Nantucket Affordable Housing Trust is continuing to accept nominations for the 2026 Dr. Howard Dickler Citizen Award. This honors a community member who demonstrates exceptional voluntary leadership and advocacy in support of affordable housing on Nantucket, and nomination information is available on the Select Board meeting agenda and online, and nominations may be submitted through April 10th. The May 4th, 2026 town meeting, there's quite a bit of warrant article information. Are we able to get the webpage up? There's quite a bit of warrant article information on the town website, including a sidebar of several of the large capital projects that are going to be on the warrant. And we've scheduled some additional public outreach sessions on specific articles and all of this information is online and on the Select Board meeting agenda. We've got on Monday, April 13th at 5, we have a remote info session on Article 71. That is a stormwater management bylaw. We have 2 sessions for the Somerset Needs Area Sewer Extension Appropriation. One is on Tuesday, April 14th at 5. This is Article 15. And the other is on Tuesday, April 21st at 5. And these are also remote meetings. There is another one.
I was gonna say, do you want to do the in-person one only? That one didn't make it to the agenda.
Yeah, was that the 13th?
That was April 9th at 5 o'clock here in the community room, in person only.
Thank you. So again, there's 3 sessions for Article 15, and the one that was just mentioned is Thursday, April 9th at 5 p.m. here in this room, in person only. And that's it for announcements.
Okay, and do we have any select board announcements or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. First, I have an answer to a public comment from last week. Campbell Sutton inquired whether the town has any ability to delay installation and filling of any new pools until Nantucket becomes drought-free. The town's response: under current drought conditions, pools may only be filled using a private well. The public water supply cannot be used for pool filling at this time. Some companies are exploring the use of water trucks filled with private wells to support pool filling. There are no mass DEP drought regulations that prohibit the construction or installation of pools. So that's from last week. Okay, are there any public comments tonight from the public? And Brooke, you'll have to help me if they're online. Mr. Williams?
Yes, just wanted to make sure, is it going to be a report this week? Like waited like 2 hours to do public comment on the African Meeting House, and then there was no report.
There will be a report.
Okay,
There will be a report at the end. It would be very brief and won't have much more information than I did send you an email note recently.
right, okay.
Essentially, I'm going to read that. So you're,
Okay, then I'll wait till then.
because I'll
Okay.
read it again.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Great. All right. Is there anyone online? Okay. Mr. Barretta?
Thomas Barrett of Toshville Lane. At ATM annual town meeting, we swept all the previous money for road repair, and this year, as money is allocated, I saw Victor out doing Nantucket Road, marking it for overlayment. Can we get new lane fixed? DPW went out there this winter. It's already failed. Can we get the sides of the edge of the roads fixed? Can we get the catch basin at Nantucket Road at the bottom of the hill? Coming from the dump? I mean, there's a catch basin, now there's a hole, so you can't even split it. Also, the end of Old South Road, there's discussion, I guess, to try to get it paved, but there's a argument between Deep Town and Airport and who's responsible. That road is destroyed. Someone's got to figure that one out. I guess you guys are arguing back and forth from what I hear. Let's just get it fixed. Irrigation. Last year I pulled a FOIA for water usage from the water company for irrigation. Schwab's house up on Step Beach at the Lincoln Circle, their irrigation line was actually for their geothermal, and they were sucking, I think it was 400 or 500,000 gallons last year. Is that going to be removed off the system this year? I don't think we're going to be back into normal water usage ability. So are we going to set a program where the water company is going to monitor usage on irrigation and shut off the high offenders? And is the town going to work a program to create something to say you went over an allotted amount? Because we need to figure that out. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right.
Hi, Amy Eldridge. Just more of a curiosity question. Are there any special plans to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the founding of our country for July 4th? Anything, different than what we normally do for 4th of July? It seems kind of like a big date, and very special. I mean, the state's got commemorative plates, and it'd be kind of cool. We have one of the most iconic main streets, I would say, in the world, let alone the country. And it would be kind of cool to utilize it in a really awesome way to celebrate 250 years of America. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're the second person that's asked me that. So I'm glad you asked the camera because I forgot. All right. Anyone online? Okay, great. So seeing none, we're on to minutes, warrants, pending contracts.
Move approval?
Second.
Okay, so we've got to do this by roll call. Malcolm?
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, so those are approved. Okay, we are at National Grid, update on the smart meter program. Yep. Use yourself, Jesse, so for the camera.
Good evening. My name is Jesse Harvey. I am the head of our AMI delivery for National Grid's Massachusetts AMI deployment. And appreciate the opportunity to come tonight and provide an update on where we are in terms of the deployment, answer some questions generally about smart meters, hopefully do a little myth busting, and provide an update on benefits of the smart meters as well. So I'll start with where we're at in the deployment. So across the state, we're at nearly 500,000 meters deployed. In Nantucket, we're over 10,000 meters, which represents about 70%, 69% of our residential customers on Nantucket. So we will continue installations through April and then pause and come back in the fall to finish up. But we do have largely positive customer satisfaction scores. We survey both before and after install to get an idea of how we're communicating and if it's effective or not. And we have an 85+% satisfaction rate with the communication and the installation experience. So we're proud of that number and want to keep that going and obviously continue to improve. There are some questions, and you see it online around the safety of smart meters. Smart meters are safe. They put off less radio frequency than your cell phone and most of the appliances in your home that use that. So, and it does help us in storm response, and the timing's pretty good to demonstrate that a little bit as we start to test some of the capabilities. Now that we've got a saturation level that makes it relevant, we were able to use the meter ping technology to help prioritize storm response in the last storm situation. And recognize where people were restored already rather than rolling a truck, and helped us get to the right places faster. So early learnings and positive progress there.
So
And
for the
yeah.
public, meter ping means you know if it's out
yes,
and you can look on a screen and,
exactly.
gotcha, okay.
So if we ping the meter, it'll tell us if power is on or not. In the past, somebody would have to call back or we'd have to roll a truck to verify. So thank
Yeah.
you for clarifying. And one thing I also want to point out is that we're actually a little bit late to the smart meter game in terms of Massachusetts. 72% of US electric utility customers already have smart meters, right? So we have an opportunity here to take the latest technology and put it in place. But smart meters in themselves are not sort of new technology. And so continuing to grow that and move that along. If we can go to the next slide, please. All right, so recent billing issues and mitigation, right? So we have heard the concerns, the complaints, both on the island and in the broader territory around, smart meters are creating higher bills. And so I want to just clarify a couple of things. The meters themselves register power the way meters always did, right? It's the usage that's coming in and the consumption at the location. The smart aspects of it allow us to get more data, both for the customer and for the company, right? So a good example of that is that outage management, and we can see when people lose power and or are restored. I think the timing has been a challenge. This was the coldest winter in 20 years. At the same time, we put in these new smart meters. And so we have seen on Nantucket a 9% higher energy consumption overall. And that's across all customers, both AMI and regular meters. But we saw that it was 12% colder this winter. And so there were more heating days and higher usage. Another big factor is just rates that change and increase, both on the supply and the delivery side. And so comparing dollar for dollar bills to last season or seasons before aren't always applicable. And it really comes down to understanding the usage and comparing the usage. So one thing we did start to look at is, can we see what's happening on Nantucket and whether or not smart meters are registering at higher rates? That, because I can stand here and tell you about all the talking points we have, but I wanted real data. And what we saw was there was really no difference between AMI smart meters and the existing AMR meters. And we saw the percentages sort of trend as more and more smart meters went in place. And if anything, the usage skews higher for the existing meters, the AMR meters. And so it's negligible, right? And so it just filled me with confidence that when I get up here and talk about how smart meters are registering the usage in the home and not creating additional charges or usage, it balances out with the data on the island and across the state. And if we can go to the next slide, please. So one thing we don't talk enough about is the data that helps customers to understand their usage more. And so I do want to encourage people that if you go online, if you have a smart meter, you'll now be able to go online and you'll be able to get a lot of information, both what we call near real-time information that gives you information on your usage to 15-minute increments and intervals. And so you can see where the spikes are. And if you're not you're not at home or you're not on the island, but you can check in, you can see if there's something that's happening when you don't expect there to be usage, right? So there's indications there. There's other charts that give you historical information, so you can go back in time and see, you don't have to look at the last 24 hours. You can go and see trends over longer stretches as well. And so smart meters, I thought smart meters were going to save us money. Smart meters don't save money in and of themselves. It just measures the consumption at a premise. But it does provide you data that helps you to make behavioral changes and or use your energy differently. And so I'd encourage people, any customer, and I do it myself. I'm a National Grid customer and I go in and I've seen some things and realize, hey, when my kids come home from school, all of a sudden I'm getting spikes, right? And much more dramatic than I had expected before getting this information, right? And so it's a little bit eye-opening. In the future, we'll also have apps such as Sense that customers will be able to access that will break it down to an appliance level. And so you can get better information on, is it your resistance baseboard heating? Is it your refrigerator? Is it your microwave? And maybe it's time to make some changes. But that's a future capability that's coming and an exciting opportunity to help customers have better control of their energy usage. Yes.
Erica,
Are questions going to be able to be asked during it, or should we let him speak and then ask after?
do you have a preference?
Either way, I'm good.
Well, we can ask, if someone has something quick.
I have one.
Oh,
So there is no way to like check your smart meter right now.
When you say check your smart meter,
Like you just said, there will be an app
so that
where you
app,
can kind of,
good question. So the app will take it down to a like appliance level at some point. Right now, though, everybody has what's up on the screen. So you can go in right now and see how much you're using through 15-minute interval data segments. So you can go back in time and look, but you can start to recognize trends and patterns. And what I equate this to is somebody with diabetes who has a continuous glucose monitor. Instead of pricking their finger, they can go in and get data at different points in time by just going on their phone. And just like pricking your finger or looking at your phone to get your blood sugar levels, it doesn't change what you're eating, right? It just gives you the information to make better choices. And that's sort of the utility version of that. So you can go on and see if there's times a day or times you're not home and you're expecting no usage or low usage and you're seeing a spike, and it might make you go, well, what did happen in close enough time that it's still relevant and memorable. And so, yeah, that's available today.
thanks.
Yeah.
Amy, do you have a question?
Yeah, Amy Eldridge. So I was one of the customers that called in with issues about my bill because it was never mentioned in any of the meetings that potentially these devices would be installed faster than you guys could get them up and actually running. So for 3 months, I had an estimated reading, which is not indicated on the bill in the graph chart that shows you what your monthly usage is from March to March of that physical year. And I just don't understand. I understand that there's a 12-degree temperature difference than we had last year, but my wattage use doubled. It doesn't seem indicative of a 12% decrease in temperature. When I called in, the first person I spoke to was not very helpful at all. I asked them so many questions. I think she just got confused and we got cut off. I called back 2 days later, once I started looking at my statements and things just didn't make sense to me. And when you put in any 3 of the zip codes for your billing address for Nantucket, there's like 4 or 5 people at National Grid that are designated to Nantucket. So I got a wonderful gentleman named Tony who was very helpful and explained everything, but explained that things moved faster. So your meter was actually reading your time, but not in the system right. So then you were estimated. So the month of February, I had 3 invoices created under my profile, which was so confusing. And then when my monthly bill was due, they took the credits all off and left me hanging with a $200 balance that was on auto pay that they never took the money till today. And then I have another bill due April 1st, which I'm looking at right now. But nowhere on my little chart here, everything's in black saying that it's the actual reading. It's not showing the 3 months that were estimated that should be in white.
I don't want to jump in.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So I'm glad you brought up because I was going to go there anyways. So let's take them 2 parts, right? If I look at the first part around whether we move faster than the meters are ready, I would say it's a little bit different than that, and I'll explain it. It had nothing to do with the meters. It had to do with the data being ingested into our billing system. We hit an issue back in September primarily, and then into October where the tool we use to capture the data when we're doing the exchanges, the data wasn't processing into the billing system. There was an integration issue. And so it got backlogged, and it did 2 things. One, it delayed it so that some people ended up going into the billing window, and then it errored out and we had to go and fix that manually. And in other cases, it estimated for a period of time until we could go there. So the meters were registering and getting that data, but you wouldn't be able to go onto the portal to see your usage because it wasn't connected to the billing system. It was in place, but it was the wrong meter. It was still thinking the old meter was there, and there was nothing to read. So that data did catch up at some point. It took us a while. To be honest with you, we had a few thousand accounts that we had to work through on the island alone. And so working through that manually, we got all those fixed. Everything should be resolved. And if you were not billed for 60 days, you shouldn't be back billed more than the 60 days. So what we also did, and I was going to bring this up at the end, is I brought some of my billing specialists, they're the best I know. So I've got 3 people with me. We're set up upstairs for after this meeting, but we're also going to be here tomorrow for anybody online who can't be here, because it's really hard to answer individual questions without seeing the individual bills and the CSS, our billing systems data. So we want to sit with everybody who has a question and physically in person go through the bill with you. So if you're willing to stay after, we're happy to go through that with you. And I'll put that off for anybody that's listening online. We'll be here tomorrow from 9 to 1. So it's another opportunity to come in and see a person face to face and go through that. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
That's okay. So in the sense that like the way it caught up to itself, those balances that should have been paid in March that got forwarded to April, because all of a sudden I have a $365 bill
Yep.
instead of my normal, because I run on oil and electricity. So my electricity usage is much lower than the average home that's on pure electricity. It just like you're in good standing, but then it's like you've got an outstanding balance. And then I just want to make sure that people understand that 25% credit that you got on a portion of your bill due to the winter storm. I guess 15% of that's going to be eaten by the state of Massachusetts, but then you're going to have 10% of that balance is going to be deferred over other payments over the summer months when you may have less usage. So it's not all a 25% discount. There is going to be a payback of 10%. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So let's see if we can get through the rest of your presentation, and then if we'll take questions again.
Perfect. If we go to the, yeah, please, thanks. So when it comes to the accuracy of the meters, we test every meter, right? So these meters are tested at the manufacturer. They come in, we do a significant sampling of those meters before we let the batch go out into the field. And then we have what we call pick for test programs that we then randomly go and select meters and test them that have been in the field for whether a short period of time or a longer period of time to validate whether or not we've got an issue. And so this is the process we've been using for as long as I know. And so the AMI meter doesn't change that process and doesn't reset the timing or anything else. So these do follow a very strict standard. And it's a regulatory requirement that we follow this and do this timely. And the meters that are tested, right, are over 99.96% accurate. And so the reason I bring this up is to say, we're not randomly putting out meters that we don't feel confident are accurate, but we also don't just assume that they stay accurate forever. And we want to make sure that we don't have issues going forward, and we do randomly sample and test them on an ongoing basis. And if you are having billing concerns, it's probably a billing concern that we want to walk through and talk you through. It's not likely that the meter itself is the issue. And if we can go to the next slide, please. So just to give some resources on, ways to save, clean energy options, our website has a lot of information, a lot of links. So we've got the phone number up there. We have the website. Again, we're going to have people here this evening and tomorrow. We're coming back again in the middle of May for another community event that we'll make sure we advertise well in advance. We do want to make sure people feel confident that they're understanding their bills and that they're paying for what they used. And so, but in the meantime, if you want support, whether it's for energy efficiency programs, you can go to our website. If you also are coming out of the season, I have electric heat in half my house. This is the first year with it getting so cold because I'm a National Grid customer as well. It was just too much. So I asked somebody to put me on a budget billing, right, to spread that out. So there are options between payment plans and budget billing for those that have winter heating bills. So there are options. Again, we can review those with you in person or on the phone, and you can also explore through the website. And if you do need a payment plan besides a budget bill to help catch you up, we can work with you to get creative on how to best help you. So there's definitely options. And if we can go to I think it's the last slide. And this is, I've already kind of mentioned this, right? So we've got somebody from our customer advocate team who really specializes in billing and payment options. And then we have billing experts from both contact center perspective and our back billing office perspective. So there shouldn't be a question that we can't answer while we're here and available. And with that, I open up for questions.
Is there any questions from the board? All right, Brooke?
So, obviously I'm going to recommend my family member come and talk to you about her bill,
Yeah.
but it literally went up 100%. So that seems with the, yes, there were differences in temperature. Yes, there were differences in rate. So that begs the question, what was the timing of rate changes? Is it been, how often do
Yeah.
rate changes happen? So,
They're not monthly, so it would have been the fall, would have been the
Okay.
last one that, with the
but
spikes.
comparing last year's bill in the same month to this year's bill, there has been a rate change since then that would account for some of it.
Yes.
But 100% seems a lot, so I'm going to suggest she come in and talk to you guys tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And by the way, I try never to assume that there isn't something wrong with the billing. So that's why I encourage it, right? Come on down because we'll look and work
You
through
know,
it.
I looked at the bill. I've got a couple properties. I have employee housing and my own house. I looked at the bills. The electrical rate from the town side hadn't changed from this time last year. The distribution rate had changed about 2.5%, 3%. And so it was, and I looked at my bills. So if you think, and so it was colder.
Yep.
So, so I was up like 8% or so, so that was, so, and I looked at a few different bills because I'd heard this and that was, so we were up, I was up a little bit, but it shouldn't be up 100. And so that's, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then if you have mini splits, you could have the winter rate, which brought the whole thing down. And we've been telling people to apply for that. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Mhm.
so,
One more question.
all right.
I have a funny one. It's a personal one. I have 2 meters at my house.
Yeah.
They replaced one.
Do you have solar? You
No.
Interesting. Okay. We can look at that too.
It was just odd.
Yeah.
They're right next to each other.
So if you don't mind, I'll check in with you after.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Mr. Barrett.
Thomas Barrett again. I've got a few customers that houses are completely shut down. The only thing running is a refrigerator. And they called me and they said their usage was off the chart compared to the previous year. So the only thing they had was the refrigerator. So there is something with it. Couple questions for you. Hydro-Quebec and Waterloo University, they did a white paper on it. The smart meters take a analysis of snapshots of usage. How often is that done? Is that done in quadrants or is it done by a time measure? Is it by seconds, minutes, quarter hours?
The interval data.
Yeah, the
It-
data
it-
that you're billing off of.
Well, we bill.
No, that you're reading the meter.
Yeah. So online you'll get, collects data in 15-minute
That's online.
increments.
That's the collection online and then the
Yeah,
algorithm
the
creates that.
billing, yeah, the billing is still off of register reads. So the billing is based off of the reading from the last billing cycle end or start, and then the end. So it's not billing.
I
off digital
understand,
data.
I understand the billing part. My question is, are you taking snapshots of usage by a time interval? That's a key question because some of them use an algorithm to fill in the spaces. And that has caused an issue on smart meters. Number one. Number two, you supply the data according to National Grid, you supply it to third-party vendors.
Well, let's go, Tom, let's go with the first one.
Yeah.
Just, the first, so
Yeah.
how often does the meter take the reading?
Every 15 minutes, it takes a reading. But it doesn't bill off of that interval data. That's an important distinction. I'm not trying to be semantics or play semantics about it, but the billing is off register reads. So what was it the last month and what is it now? And that's what we bill off of. And just to finish the last point on that, with the interval data, when you go online, it should tell you when we didn't get it. So let's say for 15 minutes, there was a signal loss and it didn't send the data. It will tell you that 15 minutes was estimated. Again, not affecting billing, but you'll know clearly what are actual usage within your intervals and what are estimated usage within those
Okay,
intervals.
I'm not asking in regard to the app or the billing.
Yeah.
I'm actually asking in regard to the actual meter. According to the Waterloo University white paper,
Mhm.
there's an algorithm that's used. They take a snapshot of the image. The old analogs, as power is drawn, the meter spun, but because it's electronic, it takes a snapshot picture of the usage over time. The question is how are these smart meters set as far as the time intervals. And if there are a time interval over 5 seconds, are you using an algorithm to fill in the middle? Because if I have a refrigerator, an air compressor, and an AC compressor turn on all at the same time as it takes a snapshot, that startup usage is going to be extremely high. That's a very good question. I don't think you're going to be able to answer it, but I'd love to have you have the answer come back to them. The question you may be able to answer is third-party access to the data. The data that you're going to provide, is that available to third-party individuals?
No, only if you're searching for a supplier, an external supplier, you can give permission to share that data, but it would be fully controlled by you. We don't share this data with anybody.
You don't share it. So, but the town of Nantucket has an energy department that we have here. What data do you supply to them?
Nothing on a regular basis. So by request, if they have questions on their own bills, but we're not sharing customer information.
When you have, so you did say that the equipment is going to talk to the appliances, and we're going to be able to see if our dryer's using too much power or if our dishwasher and all that data is going to be collected, and that's not sellable data that you're not going to provide to anybody.
As a matter of fact, we don't get that data at National Grid. So this will be an agreement between the customer and the application, the company called Sense. And so it's an opt-in, and that information does not flow through National Grid's network. It flows through your home Wi-Fi only if you set it up, because it's not automatically on. So you'd have to register with Sense. It's a free service, but you'd have to register with Sense, and you come up to an agreement with Sense on how that information gets transmitted. You get access to it. Sense doesn't share it with us. It's completely your information. We don't ever get that data.
So the meter is the gateway to gather the information, but you're telling me that meter will not send that data back to National Grid?
Yeah, because it doesn't flow through our backhaul system. That's not the way it's set up. So
For now.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah, there's two online. We'll go, all right, Mr. Daly. We're gonna go online.
Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I first just anecdotally want to mention that just because I think National Grid needs to get a little bit more feedback from the customers, and I'm speaking on behalf of my own home, my business, rental properties, as well as some of my clients. And I think one of my clients' experiences is very salient. It's a newly constructed home. It is a HERS 43, so it's an extremely energy efficient home. And we looked at a bill from August of this past year when there was 14 people in the house for, I think it was 21 days of that month. High energy usage, high AC, and as many summer people do on Nantucket, doors are open while the AC is running. So the house was not running efficiently. They have left the island as of November. We looked at their December bill when there was nobody in residence. All supplemental electrical usage was turned off. We had the heat at 60 degrees. Again, this is a HERS 43 house, very efficient on air source heat pumps. And our billing was the exact same in December with nobody in residence as it was in August when there was 14 people. So that's very worrisome. I looked at that against my own house, time that my family is in residence versus not, again, with my rental properties as well. And I cannot find anything that's even close to 9%, as National Grid is saying that is what you are seeing on the data for the higher energy use. So much longer conversation needs to be had there. I understand that we can do that offline somewhere else, but I do feel like that needs to get into the record that there are some really egregious experiences here. A question for you though, as the meters are currently set up, are they billing different rates for different times?
no, there are no time varying rates right now.
Now, is that the intention to roll that out at some point?
So these meters enable the potential for a time varying rate, but that's not imminent. And it would be through regulatory proceedings with the DPU that would determine what that rate would be. So I can't give you a preview of when that would be. So yes, these meters, because they provide interval data, could enable a time varying rate, but as of now, there is no time varying rate approved, nor a docket to get that approved.
Okay. Very quickly, the Sense program that you were just mentioning, which is going to monitor appliance usage and kind of do load calculations, that is a AI program. Is that correct?
They have an algorithm. I don't know if I would describe as AI or not. It's not a National Grid product. It's something that we'll be able to offer through the smart meter, which connects you with that company. So I don't know if I would describe it as AI or not.
Okay, my experience with these programs, and I believe Sense is actually the one that I've seen in use, is that it is AI, that it tries to, it doesn't actually do home runs, individual home runs on the meter. So it doesn't know exactly what circuit load. It's trying to figure out based on usage and length of time, et cetera. So it's not precise, in other words. And my last question, in order to opt out of the smart meters, what is the cost on that?
It would be $26 a month.
Okay. So, I would say, so for people who are experiencing higher than a 9% energy usage, $26 might be economically sound advice, correct?
That's individual choice.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you
All right.
want, and Frank, if you want to come tonight or tomorrow and bring some of those bills, that could probably be very helpful.
Yeah.
If you have some from your clients or yourself, that might be very helpful for these guys.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do you have anyone else online? All right. We'll do Kathy Ward next. Are you there,
Hi.
Kathy? There you go.
I
Good.
am. So mine's a long story, but I've been working with National Grid since early part of January because I had a $956 bill for November. I had a $2,000 bill for December. The $956 bill I didn't question it because there were people from Jamaica who was stranded and I let them stay in the house and I figured they just ran it up. But 2000 in December when nobody was there, I had an electrician go in, I had my caretaker go in. Everything is, some rooms are 45 degrees, some are 55 degrees. So I'd like your advice. I've been working on the phone with different people and they always tell me, call back in a month, call back in 30 working days and ask for a supervisor. I do it every time. I've gone back, I've looked at from 1923, 24, 25 bills. There is nothing that suggests, and it's the same occupancy of the house except for who was there in November this year for a short period of time. So is it your advice to get an appointment with you? I'm still not back on Nantucket, but to get an appointment over Zoom or whatever with you guys, tell me the right person to talk to, because obviously I'm not getting to the right person and I'm due a phone call on or before tomorrow, which I've not gotten a phone call yet. So chances are real good I won't get one. In the meantime, my bill is close to $3,000. So if you could send me in the right direction, the right person that will help resolve this, figure out what's going on, because there's no way that bills jump from an average of $300 when I'm not there, $400. I mean, it accounts for increased cold weather, but not $2,000, not from $400, $500 to $2,000.
No, that's significant. I know you said you're not on the island, so if there's a way, we can try to look up your account and then based off your name and see if there's a phone number there to reach you, or if there's another way to get the contact information. We're happy to give you a call, right? So we're going to be here focused on individual billing situations. So I'll make sure you get a call while we're
What's the
here.
best way to do that, do we think?
Kathy, why don't you just email me the best number that they can reach you at and I'll connect the two of you.
Okay, and I think that if we could just have one person working on this, because every time I call, I get a different name and they have to go through it again. So if I could get to the right person would be helpful. And Erica, I'll send you an email. Thank
Great.
you.
Yeah,
And I'll
we'll
get
do
it to
that.
Jesse.
We'll do that. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you for being there.
Okay.
Through the chair, I'm John Carl McGrady. I'm a reporter with the Nantucket Current. I'm in an interesting position here because I've spoken to over a dozen people. I've reviewed a bunch of bills. And these numbers, 12%, whatever. We're looking at numbers that are like 500%, 1,000%, 2,000%, right? So I'm not going to rehash all that. But what I do want to ask is one thing. The things that National Grid representatives say in public are not always the same as what they say in private. And so I have at least two people have told me that speaking to National Grid representatives personally, they were told the issue could be that their old meter was imprecise, that the new meter is correct. The old meter wasn't reading the numbers accurately. Now their numbers, their rate's going to jump dramatically because the old meter is catching up. But I heard that from the first person. I didn't give it too much mind. I heard it from two people. It's also been reported by a different news source online. So this is something that's been said. It's been said quite a few times. And I just want to see if that's a possibility, if that could be happening to anybody.
Yeah,
Okay.
I appreciate the question. So I've heard this a lot. So I've asked my meter engineering specialists and to do the tests and run the tests, and I've asked our metering experts in the field. And the easy answer is, yeah, it's potential. But it's always most likely if you go from old mechanical meters to the new digital meters. It's very, very rare to see it from an AMR digital meter to an AMI meter. And the reason I've been given for that is that the old mechanical meters, which there are very few of them still in the population, but if they are there, at some point they're gears, right? And if they wear down, it might slip a little bit and slow down a little bit. But based off of our pick for test results of our AMR meters, there doesn't seem to be a widespread issue of that, and they couldn't even come up with one anecdotal evidence of one in recent years. So I think this is one of those that, yes, is it physically possible? Is it likely? No.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And John Carl, if you could get some of the people that have reached out to you for tonight, or if you could get them to show up, that would be helpful for them. Yeah. Mr. Merida?
Thomas Barrett, a follow-up question. Frank Daly, thank you, Frank. You reminded me of a question I forgot. The service fee for analog meters, you said it's $26. Why is it $26 here, but it's $9.99 in places off island that National Grid has? Like in upstate New York, it's $9.99. There's other places that are cheaper than $26.99 or 20 or whatever it is.
Yeah, so 26 is what it would cost to read the meter with a technician going by and reading the meter. So it's factored in the cost. It was the approved rate by the DPU. I can tell you that other utilities have different rates even within the state, but it's consistent for Massachusetts National Grid customers. New York is a little bit different. It's a little bit lower on the electric rate, but if you put both the electric and the gas rates together when you have dual commodities, it's very similar price. I can't remember the exact number, so I don't want to say it. So there's different formulas that dictate that, but the $26 is what the DPU approved.
And that's a standard number across the state?
Across the state for National Grid electric customers.
It's $26.
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
very quickly, Jesse, if we get into acronym soup here, if you might just go over what DPU is and
Sorry, yeah.
just generally for the public. Thank you.
Yeah, DPU is the Department of Public Utilities. So they're the group that regulates all of our rates and what we're allowed to charge.
Hi, Amy Eldridge. This is kind of a little off topic. How many communities do you service in the Commonwealth?
Now you put me to the test. I don't know the number of communities. I can tell you it's about 1.5 million customers.
What comparison to like Eversource? What is?
It's about even. I think Eversource is 1.7 million, where we're at like 1.5 million.
So you have a good foothold in the state. I wasn't sure if there was only certain communities in which was National Grid and everybody else was Eversource.
It's mixed throughout the state. So we go as far as North Adams and all the way to Brockton and towns southeast. And then Eversource similarly has towns out west. So, and then there's municipals and Unitil and others too. So it's a mix throughout the state.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Is there anyone else? Any other questions from the board? All right. Thank you very much.
And again, National Grid team will be upstairs in the community room until 8 p.m. if anybody has any follow-ups.
Okay. The next is a request for approval of GL 268A exemption for town manager in connection with a potential internship of a family member. This is,
I don't know if you need any info, but it's pretty much all in the packet and it's something I have filed before with.
we've done this before, yes,
Yeah.
and it's,
Yeah, I'll move approval.
got a second?
Can I advise you on a motion? If you
Oh,
don't
sure.
mind?
Thanks.
Sure. Just give me 1 second.
Is it in the packet?
No, I
The
don't.
motion isn't, but it's under the determination. So the motion would be that you, the financial interest described in the packet is not so substantial as to be deemed likely to affect the integrity of the services which the municipality may expect from Ms. Gibson.
I would make that motion,
Thank you.
that
Need a
determination.
second?
Second.
Okay, let's roll call. Malcolm?
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so that's approved. Thank you. Okay, now we've got consideration approval of amendments to town regulations, chapter 338, short-term rental property. Okay.
Mr. Chair, there are staff online and town council online for this, but as the board will recall, these particular regulations require Board of Health approval to amend or change in any way, and then through the regular public hearing process, and also select board approval, which does not need to go through the public hearing process. And the amendment in question was approved by the Board of Health at its meeting on March 19th, as noted on the agenda. And I'm sure that the health director or staff person could explain specifically what the amendment is intended to do. It is shown here, and this has been something that has been in the works for quite some time.
Town council's on too.
All right.
Yeah.
Who do we have first?
Roki.
Rocky's hands up.
Roki? Okay. Rocky?
Good evening, Rocky Miramontes, Public Health Director. When the short-term rental bylaw 123 was passed, there was language included that prevented C corporations or corporations that are earning their income from short-term rentals, prevented them from gaining registration as a short-term rental operator on Nantucket. However, S corporations and LLCs were allowed. It's pretty common in Nantucket to have owners have their properties in LLCs as LLCs. So several months ago, we became aware that there were companies who were operating short-term rentals on the island as a business, what appeared to be a business, and registering those homes as LLCs, thereby creating a kind of a situation we were unable to determine whether that met guidelines. So this amendment was designed or drafted to address that and provide clarification. And Devin Braun from KP Law is on to talk specifics.
Devin, would you like to explain it now, please?
Thank you. I believe it was very adequately covered, but that's just it. Board of Health had approved this. They went through the public hearing process. The select board, it's subject to approval under the town's current code on short-term rentals. Chapter 123-3H is the section which prohibited short-term rentals and dwelling units owned by a corporation, among other entities who primarily engage in sort of investment activity or pooling their resources from investment activities. And as the health director mentioned, it has an exemption for the LLCs and S corps. But there's this loophole that several companies have been taking advantage of, and so to more sort of closely align with the town's code on this, it seeks to clarify that the LLCs and S corps are only eligible for a short-term rental certificate if all of its members, partners, shareholders, beneficiaries, as the case may be, are also natural persons, and none of whom also serve as an officer or director of a corporation, a partnership, or a real estate investment trust that is, operating short-term rentals in Nantucket. So the intent of the amendment is to really ensure that natural persons are not officers or directors of a corporate entity has a financial interest in the LLC, such that the LLC is really under the effective control of the corporate entity. I, understand that there are certain questions and issues that have come up as to sort of the scope of how this amendment might be interpreted, but it's to be interpreted consistent with the town bylaw, the Board of Health regulations. And I just want to point out, it's not a bylaw, so it doesn't need to go through town meeting approval or attorney general approval. It's a regulation. So should there be factual situations, that arise or require further refinement or amendment, as the case may be, the Board of Health can amend its regulations as needed. Happy to address any other questions.
That's great. Thank you. Does any of the board members have any questions?
No.
Tom?
I would make a motion to approve the amendments to chapter 338.
Okay. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call. Malcolm?
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And we have a hand raised?
Yep.
We haven't. We've got one more. So. All right. So will you hold the vote?
No, I mean, you were in the
Okay.
voting, so.
Right.
So you're the last
Finish
to
it.
vote.
I'll vote aye.
Okay.
All right, so we're approved.
So do you want to hear from them now?
Yeah, if, who's on? Is it?
Rebecca Duhame
Re-
and Kathy Baird.
Rebecca Duhame? Would you like to speak even though we've just voted?
Yeah, thank you. I didn't realize there wouldn't be an opportunity for public comment before the vote, so this may be moot. Perhaps it's an opportunity for further clarification. So first of all, I'd like to say that the intent of amending chapter 338 should be applauded, but there is concern about the language of the amendment being imprecise and could lead to unintended consequences, which would complicate the life of the health department as well as stakeholders. So looks straightforward is the part of the amendment to 338 that is consistent with bylaw 123, which talks about the eligibility of limited liability corporations or S corporations to apply for a certificate of registration, only if all of its members, partners, beneficiaries, or shareholders are natural persons. But this new language that's been added, and believe me, all of us want this loophole closed. We don't want pure commercial corporations to be operating short-term rentals on Nantucket. But the proposed amendment is adding a qualification that's not shown in chapter 123. So this is different from what the bylaw explicitly states, where it's saying none of whom should serve as an officer or director of a corporation, a member of a partnership, et cetera, that owns or operates a short-term rental. In the context of 338, the use of corporation and partnership is unclear because chapter 338 does not define these terms. Now, this may be as simple as not understanding the relationship of the bylaw and the regulation, but it would seem that the specific definition of corporation and partnership that exists in 123 needs to be reiterated in chapter 338 so that we can make sure that the interpretation is clear. Otherwise, for instance, if someone, let's say a family owns a short-term rental through an LLC, they're all natural persons, so that part is straightforward, but some of those family members are also officers of the same LLC. That would seem to run afoul of this prohibition. Again, unless 338 explicitly says corporation is defined as defined in 123, which excludes family, natural person owned LLCs and S corps from that interpretation. So perhaps someone through you, Chair, could we get a response from town council perhaps about whether the bylaw definitions carry over into regulation, please.
Is that some, can I have, are you there?
Yes, hi, Mr. Chair.
Is that
through
something we
you.
should be concerned with, or is that something we okay?
In my opinion, the definitions in chapter 123 of the bylaw carry over into the regulations which are promulgated pursuant to that chapter.
And
Thank
if
you.
something, and if we find that it isn't working as it's a regulation that we can come back and address, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Dawn's hand is up.
Hey, Matt, I
Yes,
probably shouldn't actually vote on this, so I'm just going to withdraw my vote and turn off my camera till you're done with it.
Okay, so Dawn is recused. And she has not participated.
Next up is Kathy Baird.
Kathy Baird?
Hi, just quickly, thanks a lot for taking this on. I think it's a loophole that does need to be closed. I agree with Rebecca on that. I don't have any personal situation that might be a problem even in the way it's worded now, but there were two questions that came up to me and I didn't know the answer. I didn't know if it would cause a problem for the town in figuring out what to do. But because of the differences in the way Nantucket counts STRs and the way the state does, if you have a property where you have multiple dwellings or you have a duplex on your property that you can rent separately, although Massachusetts doesn't really care one way or the other, they go by the property address and you need one permit. But if you want to rent them separately, Nantucket requires that you have two permits for each STR that's on your same property. And once you require that, then that means you have to go back to the state and get another one for your same property. And they don't care if they're duplicates, so that's fine. So you end up with two state permits and two STR permits. But that particular single property is owned necessarily by, let's say it's in an LLC or it's an S corporation, it's owned by a family. So they in fact have two STRs owned by the same LLC or S corporation where the members could be could be officers. So those are the two situations that people had questions about, and I didn't know how that would be interpreted by the town and based on the new wording of chapter 338.
Devin, would you like to address that, please?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's difficult to anticipate sort of hypothetical situations about how individual properties might have set up their LLCs or their membership status. I think no regulation is really going to be able to address every factual situation that can arise. So these questions ultimately are going to be an enforcement decision, a registration decision for the Board of Health, consistent with its intent in enacting the regulation.
Okay. All right, thank you, Rocky.
Rocky Miramontes. Yes, I would just add that we have a very wonderful short-term rental community liaison, Lori Elliott, and she works with those operators of short-term rentals on the island, or people that have questions on them on a daily basis. She does a wonderful job, and she is available to discuss any kind of unique or a situation that might give people concern.
All right, great, thank you. All right. Anyone else? Okay, we're gonna move on. Okay, we've already voted. All right, review adoption of the comments for the annual town meeting warrant.
So since your meeting last week, you identified several articles to which you would like to add comments, and there was some drafting that was going to happen between then and now, which did. And the results of that are shown on the screen. The first article that has a comment is 11. This is the Our Island Home appropriation. And there's an article comment that has been drafted and had the review of myself, Brooke, and Dawn. And the positive motion that the board, I think you really pretty much already voted on.
Does everyone looked at it?
Is that visible online, Dawn? On the Zoom?
Oh, did I not?
No, I don't see it, but I'm good with the comment.
Okay.
I reviewed it.
Just for the public,
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I thought I was Reacher.
I thought I was crazy.
You're not.
Okay.
And let's take these one at a time if.
Yeah.
All right. All right, are we good with this comment?
Yeah, I make a motion that we adopt the comment for Article 11.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call. Malcolm? Aye. Brooke?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so that one's passed. Number 12,
13.
13.
13 is the municipal housing appropriation. And the board just, I think, wanted to add a supportive comment.
Want me to read it?
Sure.
Select Board supports the Finance Committee's positive motion. The board deems the creation of municipally owned housing to be a high priority. An adequate supply of housing for town employees will increase overall government efficiency and reduce the costs associated with high levels of staff turnover. Okay,
Motion to adopt the comment for Article 13.
Second.
all right. All those in, roll call. Malcolm?
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Number 14, this is the select board, and this is about
Lorraine Barracks,
Lorraine
seasonal
Barracks.
housing.
Select Board supports the Finance Committee's positive motion. This article is the next step in the phased investment to upgrade seasonal housing for community service officers. The CSO program has proven to be a highly successful pipeline for the recruitment and hiring of new police officers. Any comments? Is that good?
Motion to adopt the comment for Article 14.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call. Malcolm?
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Number 17,
DPW, 17.
Article 17.
Oh, I'm sorry.
15.
15.
Oh, 15, sorry, I'm jumping
You're right,
ahead.
sorry.
I'm going too fast. And this is the,
That's Somerset. Sewer
Somerset.
Extension.
I'll read it. The Select Board supports the Finance Committee motion, including the assessment of up to 25% for the sewer extension project costs on the owners of land to be served by the new sewers pursuant to the motion specified, the method specified in the motion. Any discussion? Are we okay with that?
It's a little unclear about the method specified in the motion,
Served by
but,
the new sewers.
but
Do you want me
Pursuant-
to go?
I want to
into
just say
the
pursuant to the
article?
motion?
no, it's fine. It's fine. It's just funny. I should have read it. I'll move adoption of this comment.
It's
Yeah.
described.
Yeah,
All right,
it made sense.
you got it?
Second.
Okay.
Yeah, it clicked in there.
Okay.
Took a minute.
Well, I read it wrong, so. All right, roll call, Malcolm
Aye.
and Brooke.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Don.
Aye, but you guys fixed the typo I mentioned earlier, right? I can't see this on the screen.
Yep.
Yeah.
25% of the sewer extension project.
Okay. Yep, I'm an aye.
Well, and I got that part right. Okay, and I vote aye, so that's passes. Article 17,
As DPW supplemental appropriation.
okay. The
Move,
Select Board supports the Finance Committee motion. The 188 Nantucket Road location was a consideration in the original appropriation article and was kept in the description for funding borrowing consistency. However, that location is no longer being considered, and discussions about reuse of the 188 Nantucket Road property will begin when plans for the DPW facility are more definitive.
that's good.
Okay.
I move we adopt the comment.
I got a second?
Second.
All right, roll call, Malcolm
Aye.
and Brooke,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
and I vote aye. All right, 73.
73 is the authorization for the select board to issue a license for the use of the Baxter Road property for the GO2 project.
Okay,
What is the status of that license?
we have been meeting with SBPF. We have another meeting tomorrow. And we have indicated that we really need to get the draft license agreed upon with our group so that we can present it to the board on April 1st. But we won't know that with 100%
You think
certainty.
that's a possibility, even if it comes April 1st, that doesn't give us a lot of time to review it and debate it and listen to the community.
We have made that clear and we're trying to figure that out. So,
Well, I mean, this is just typical of this project.
yes. And so we've got, let's go to 74 and come back to 73. How about that? All right. 74.
That's the planning commission home rule petition.
Yep, and it basically, it says the select board supports the finance committee motion as written.
Of 74, what was 74?
74 was the
NPDC.
NPDC.
Oh, yeah, sure, yes.
So
Alright.
I move we adopt the comment.
All right, second. All right, and roll call, Malcolm, Brooke.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Don.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. All right, so now we're back to 73. 73. I'll do it again. Yeah, I'll read it. The select board supports the finance committee motion, subject to the board and the Wisconsin Beach Preservation Fund reaching agreement on a draft license for use of the subject property for erosion control purposes. And if that agreement has not been reached, will propose to take no action on the article.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think to Malcolm's point, the purpose of this was to emphasize that we put this on the warrant as a placeholder should an agreement be reached. We are now running up, the clock is running down. So this is at the very minimum, a statement that says, if there is no agreement, we will basically amend the motion to propose to take no action. In other words, it's sort of like, yeah, we were kind of forced to put it as a placeholder in case it came to fruition at an early date, but this sets the stage for and to Malcolm's point, coming to an agreement and convincing the community that it's something they should vote for are two different things. And coming to agreement, this sets the stage for whether or not an agreement is reached. And then there's a whole other matter of will the voters be persuaded that the license agreement makes sense or that they want to adopt it? And that is another process.
Well, and that is part of the discussions that have been ongoing have included that this is, and some of the bigger issues that we have to deal with a lot of times don't get the bandwidth that they need and aren't in front, and people aren't we don't spend enough time with the public with them. And so I think, that has been part of the discussion and part of trying to figure out what the right thing to do is. So, so back to this, is this acceptable? We can't wait. We have to adopt something.
Yeah.
So is this, sort of,
I'm going to move that we adopt this comment and make the following comment while I'm making my motion, that our partners in this have a lot of persuading to do in the community with regard to accountability and trust between now and town meeting.
so I have a motion. I'm not adding the other part.
Second.
All right. Any other comments? All right. So roll call, Malcolm.
No, there are too
Okay.
many other issues.
Okay. Brooke,
Yes.
Tom,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. So that's 4-1. And it's to be continued. Okay. Update on the investigation of the African Meeting House vandalism?
Yes, and to answer Clifford's question, there's been a lot of discussion about the length of this Yes, it's been a long time, but do remember that the contract's first date was actually October 1st, even though we talked about it almost a year ago. And I have pushed the investigator about his timing, and he did respond with a note to me last week, and I'll summarize that note, and I sent it to the work group, and I sent it to this group. This is from the investigator. Dr. McNabb, I wanted a brief update regarding the status of the African American House investigation review. Review is well advanced. The majority of materials currently available have been received, reviewed, analyzed, and the core findings have been developed into an executive summary framework. It's important to note that the document production has been ongoing. The town provided additional materials on March 11th, which have been incorporated in the analysis. And I did mention he was waiting on the district attorney's office. I do not know if they've responded, but I do know the district attorney's office actually last week had a meeting to discuss the release of the documents. Because of those outstanding materials, may contain additional information not yet available, and which would require further evaluation. It would be not reasonable or responsible to provide a firm completion date at this time. The remaining timeline is dependent on external agency production. Once these materials are reviewed and assessed, we will move promptly to finalize a report and provide a clear date and time of completion. Please feel free to share this update. I hope it's helpful. I'm available to discuss further needs.
Okay, thank you, Malcolm. Clifford, would you like to make a comment?
Yes, maybe questions, comments. It's been quite some time since the committee met. Our mission statement was kind of skewed a little bit, whether we're involved anymore or we're not involved anymore. I know when we interviewed the group to investigate, they were very excited about us providing information, providing people they could speak with. And obviously, I don't believe any of that's been done. I haven't spoken to them. The people that have been directly involved in this, I don't think have spoken to them. So maybe it's time for us to meet with the investigators again, even though they're independent. I don't think they should be a rogue organization. I think there should be an update. I'm not sure how much longer it's going to go on. Obviously, you're representing the Board of Selectmen. In a few more months, you won't be representing the Board of Selectmen. So I'm not sure if we need to get another chairman. So there's a lot of questions that have to be answered. Unless I'm reading this wrong, it seems like they're just about ready to wrap this up if they get all this information from the Cape and Islands DA or the state police. But like I said, I think there's a lot of people that haven't had a say and haven't showed their the information that they have, which was what I believe they agreed to do. Thank you.
Just to follow up on that, I've asked the investigator if he wants any more information, if he wants to talk or interview anyone, and he said no.
Yeah, that's where I'd say that there's really a conflict, because that's not what we agreed when we interviewed them. So I don't think it's going to hurt for us to have a meeting with the group and with the investigators and get some clarity.
Just again to remember, the investigation is sponsored and done by the select board, not by the work group. The work group's task was to find the investigator.
Right, under a certain criteria. And that I don't believe they're following that. So like I said, I don't think it's going to hurt to have a meeting.
Well, I think my understanding is if we get to the process, if he comes and says, I need X, Y, and Z more, that, he'll come to us. My understanding is his charge is to look at everything that's available and look at was it handled, correctly, and was it handled, et cetera, et cetera. That was my understanding. And that if it needs to be further, it will be, but that's
correct.
Is that a simple? Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, not to rehash everything over and over again that was said at the interview, but initially they said there was going to be people interviewed and they were welcomed any information. And then I was told, no, we're just going to blindly let them try to figure this out themselves like a game show. And I thought that was kind of ridiculous. So then when we spoke with them, the guy said, oh, no, I'm happy to. We want people's names. We want people's numbers. We want the information. But like I said, that hasn't happened from what I can see. So I'm just very, as a committee member and given the task to do this investigation, I don't think it's a big issue for us to meet and speak and talk about that.
I just want to repeat, I'm not going to repeat
You're not a rogue organization. You have to follow the criteria.
The
That's all I have to
criteria.
say.
They're
I'll leave it with that.
Okay.
We need a meeting.
No, that's all right. And my hope is, once you get it, we'll get something to react to. Okay. All right, do we have, anyone else? All right, do we have committee reports? Anyone? I've got one. Coastal Resiliency met yesterday, and the main topic was the beginning of relocation and strategic retreat and relocation, and how do we get that? You know, what's the steps we need to take, and how do we form that? And so that is just beginning, which is, it's a pretty interesting and important topic. So.
I have one.
Yeah.
NPNEDC met, and the executive director of the land bank came, Rachel Freeman, and she gave a really good overview of the land bank, sort of its history, its governance. And I suggest that maybe we should invite her, because we have a bigger audience, to do the same presentation at some point in time. And if she's watching and she feels like I've called her out, I apologize.
That's fine. Okay. Anything else? Any other reports?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Second?
Second.
Malcolm? Aye. Burke?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
Bye, guys.